Discovery ist mittlerweile in Europa wie auch weltweit einer der größten Investoren in TV-Sender, in Plattformen und in Inhalte. Und deshalb freuen wir uns sehr, dass jetzt gleich the President and Managing Director Discovery Europe, Middle East and Asia bei uns sein wird. Und sie wird im Gespräch mit Torsten Zarges mal erklären, wie man eigentlich eine globale Fanbase aufbaut inmitten einer so zersplitterten Medienlandschaft. Please welcome Kasia Kieli.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So great to have you, Kasia, and I guess we need a second mic. Vielleicht, Sandra, können wir da jetzt?
I have a microphone.
Your mic.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm good.
So sorry. So sorry.
I'm good.
I didn't see it. It's
good.
Nicely hidden. So welcome to Munich, Kasia. Actually, this EMEA responsibility of yours means 140 different countries. So across all those regions, across all the channels and platforms that you are serving, where do you see Discovery today? Is it still the factual television house we used to know?
Well, thank you very much, and hello everybody, welcome. Thank you for having me here. Yes, I've been in my EMEA role for the last year or so, 11 months, and it is a role which is geographically very, very wide across 4 continents. And I've been with Discovery for quite a while, for nearly 20 years, so I've really seen the evolution and the growth and the change that we have been going through. Discovery has been founded on, it's a company with a purpose, have been founded on curiosity, on satisfying people's curiosity, and over those years, from a pay television provider, pay television broadcaster, we really ventured into a lot of different businesses. Starting actually, our diversification really started in Germany. That's why it's so great to talk about it here. Back in 2006, when we launched our first free-to-air channel, DMAX. You've probably seen DMAX when you walked into the building. And since then, our journey included the acquisition of Eurosport, the international European sport network. We also very heavily invested and diversified into digital products, including Eurosport Player, which is the only sports platform across all of Europe, really 50 plus markets. And obviously quite recently also founded the joint venture with ProSieben here on the German market, also to super serve the digital audiences.
So when we are talking about this idea of a global fan base, I mean, it was kind of obvious and easy that someone who pays for a paid television channel must be a fan in one way or the other. How do you define this idea, this kind of fandom today in a much broader and much more diversified media landscape?
Well, I think that, one thing, and we just heard actually in the speech before me, we heard about the disruption, we heard about the new kind of, the new world created by internet as well. And in this world which is, which really caters, on one hand, you have consumers that are really concerned about global issues, but they're looking for a sense of belonging at the same time. And it's much easier in the new world to find similar-minded people, to find the communities which we all relate. This is really going after those fan-based communities. And we super served them through linear channels in the past, pretty much what you said. We were the ones that were going after this 20% of the population that is curious, that wants to learn something, that wants something more from television, from linear television than just pure entertainment.
Only 20% of the population want to learn something?
Well, we always, our founder back, our founder, John Hendricks, who founded Discovery, he was always saying, you know what, this is the channel that will go after those curious people. And in every population, he was saying about 20%, kind of on the global basis. That those are the people that will be curious, that will be asking questions, that will want to know more and open their minds to what Discovery was giving. We obviously diversified since then. We're reaching through our fan-based products much bigger communities, much bigger fan communities, but we really believe in this strategy. We believe in super serving the communities of fans, and that's what you see with the extension of our products, like for instance the moto trend, which we are in development at the moment, but we see a real potential in those turbo lovers, in car lovers. We know that there's around 100 million people around the world and that are absolutely crazy about cars, and this is where we have content, and we would like to build this super vertical around. Another big, I think, experience for us, and very recent experience, is the Olympics. And serving the fans, which are much wider, as we are all, Olympic viewers pretty much, but serving those fans in a completely new way, super serving the Olympic fan through our linear proposition, both pay as well as free-to-air, but also very big digital presence.
So, I mean, this is a very unique example in some ways, but I wonder, with all those different sorts of distribution, all those different platforms, from traditional paid television, free-to-air, all kinds of different OTT products, how does that all fit in with an overall coherent strategy, or will there soon be some prioritizing, like let's switch off one or two of the linear channels?
I think that, from my perspective, we really believe in ecosystem. We call it a media ecosystem, and we moved from being a pay provider to a really diversified media company, and we believe that this is the way forward. So we believe that there is a cooperation and actual platform where you can create both linear experiences as well as digital engagement for the viewers, and it all can play together. And going back to my maybe Olympic example, because that's very recent and probably out of, if you think about scale, complexity of this operation, is something that has never happened before, definitely for Discovery, but I think pretty much on global basis, as we delivered Olympics to 48 countries, 21 languages across both linear as well as digital at the same time. And what we could see is, what was the learning to us, what we saw was that actually those platforms having, a huge presence in digital but having the linear coverage, were actually increasing the audience on both sides. So it wasn't like, digital was eating into linear or vice versa. And there was a lot of learnings. One big learning for us was that television is the king. So when it comes to a total live consumption, that's where television was coming into play. When it came to engagement, and we call it that digital is a queen, engagement, specifically for the younger viewers, that's where we saw, the digital having a real role there. And having a simple proposition in digital is very important. A very simple, diversified proposition. For us, it was every second of Olympics. You can watch, if you are a super fan, you're gonna get it. You're gonna get it through our Eurosport player. So that's really how I see that coming together.
So talking about Eurosport, that platform and that brand has obviously changed a lot under your ownership versus the old Eurosport. Can you talk a little bit about your general approach there? Like, a good example, I think, is your recent PGA deal. So that is something that has not been so usual for any TV players, that kind of partnership or cooperation. Can you talk a little bit about what you're about to do with PGA and whether or not this is like a model for future deals?
Well, this definitely goes into this trend of belonging, into this trend of super serving a fan base. Exactly, that's exactly following the trend, the consumer trend that we see in a television, well, I would say in a product, because it's not really just a television product, it's just overall product. We just announced the launch of Golf TV a few days ago. And this is a global product that we're going to be launching, and that will have both obviously live content and a live coverage of golf events, but as well as a lot of additional features to it. So it's really super serving and looking after those communities of fans. We believe in that strongly. And we believe that part of our Eurosport strategy is really having those core pillars, core sport pillars, being that tennis, cycling, athletics, winter sports are the core pillars to our proposition.
And I mean, how many more deals of that size are imaginable from your side? I mean, I guess it costs some money to do those kind of deals, but do you have the ambition to do similar things with different kind of sports to kind of step up the game for everything that's not soccer, because that's already like pretty strong on every traditional television?
Look, we are definitely, we are viewing the opportunities. We are experimenting. Thankfully, our geographical scope also provides this potential opportunity to experiment. Yes, obviously, golf TV and golf product is a global product for us. We want to roll it out everywhere, but we also have a possibility of experimenting. We're definitely, the core to our strategy is, I would say, twofold. On one hand, super serving the groups where we see a potential. So golf is definitely such a group. Maybe there will be others, we'll see. But definitely it's about super serving those groups of real interest. And because we talk about sports, but I mentioned motorsport as one of those areas. We have Dplay also, which is another product for us that we have and we launch in the market. So there are different products and different fan groups or interest groups or super fan groups that we are targeting and we are trying to serve and see how that works out. On the other hand, we also believe that this is a moment where aggregation for the local, specifically for the local TV players, is something that is really, really important. And I think that specifically in Germany, this is the first market, and I believe it's the first market where it's done on a bigger scale across the world, apart from the US, with the Hulu model, that we actually are moving into the aggregation. So you have a kind of those twofold strategy on our side.
Another very exciting and more recent acquisition on the global level is, of course, the one of Scripps Networks. So basically, if we're talking about the US market, the two biggest factual houses came together. Like Food Network is one of the most prominent brands, but there are dozens under the Scripps umbrella. So far, we didn't have many of that over here in Europe, but I guess that will change soon. Or what's your strategy?
Yeah, well, the transaction actually closed in March this year, so this is where when we actually came together as one organization. The beauty of that is that, yes, that creates, in terms of what it gives us as Discovery, it really gives us leadership in real life entertainment. Scripps is predominantly about home, food, and travel content, and that really complements our portfolio. What it means in practical terms, it's another 8,000 hours of content that we have now access to, that is very strong and very important content in the US. Actually, in the US, we're now among top television players with a combined portfolio. But it's a content that is not very well known internationally. We've been developing our international business for years now, for over 20 years, and we're very strong internationally. Scripps has not developed to that extent, and that really creates an opportunity. I would say that today we are in a little bit of testing mode, so we're trying to see how this content works. We just started to also put some of the Scripps content onto our channels in Germany, specifically on TLC. We see some first results, and we're obviously going to be analyzing that and making decisions. What do we want to do, and how do we want to utilize this content? And that could be both in linear and digital space, by the way.
But definitely more than just some windows within existing channels.
I think that, one thing, running a region as I run, one thing is certain is that one size does not fit all. That's something that, once you go from, London to Vladivostok and then to Dubai and Africa, you can see you can see. So, in a sense, we will be looking at local opportunities very much, and there could be opportunities that in some markets we're going to launch new channels, in some markets maybe we're going to launch digital products, but I think that the key for us is the fact that there is this big number of hours, 8,000 hours, 8,000 hours that work very well, that the viewers have not seen, and that actually hit the genres which are key genres today, which are really driving audience and are very practical. This is another thing that, talking about, being more human, following the trends. One of the trends that we see is this going back to practicality in life, to authenticity and practicality. And this is the content that actually hits that trend very well. So I would say not one size fits all, and you can see, things coming out.
You've been mentioning the many different territories, and that is actually something I wanted to ask you about. You are from Poland. You started out in founding the Polish office of Discovery in 2000, and then your portfolio kept getting bigger and bigger, like Central Europe, then the Middle East. So, in terms of development, are there more similarities because all the major trends in digitization are the same everywhere, or are there more differences like local tastes and stuff which you have to pay attention to?
So yes, I always say that I'm a little bit of a dinosaur at Discovery because I did start 20 years ago, and actually I am Polish. I set up the Polish office, and at that time that was the first office after the UK that opened in the world. So in a sense, I would say that I am, I've been through the journey. I've been going with Discovery through the overall journey, through expansion, through diversification and complexity of the business that we have today. And I think that when I think about that, and again, I set up now, I guess I have over 20 offices reporting into me. Many of those I set up personally, really from the first employee. When you go around the world, I would say that there are some overarching trends that you're going to see. Yes, overarching trends, so you can observe that, more or less from a technology perspective, and technology also changes our lifestyle, changes the way we look at the world, and we consume, content and consume different things. That those trends there are some underlying big trends that drive the world. Having said that, the world is very diverse. The world is very different. When you go to Dubai, when you go to Russia, and when you go to the UK or Italy, or then when you go to Africa, those are different worlds. And having this understanding and respect to that, and certain humbleness, okay, that you bring something, but you have to melt into the culture. At the end of the day, at core, we are a television broadcaster. Television is a guest in a living room. You don't go to the movies. Movies are different, because to the movies you go. You visit the movie theater. Television is at your, in your living room. It's kind of switched off. You have to understand the local culture to be relevant, and to be able to be a part of this living room atmosphere, family atmosphere. So that's important. And that's where this mixture between global and local comes to play. That's where you have to add certain aspects. You have to be a mirror of a local life, and that comes in a lot of different ways. It could be, obviously, the most simple one is languaging. Okay, but that's kind of a base. That was 20 years ago. Yes, that's a base. Then you go into how you package the channel, how you talk to the audience. Then you come into local programming. And again, since I am in Germany, so having an example from this market, we just doubled our investment in local programming in Germany. We actually tripled our commissions, and to give this balance. Because on one hand,
this year versus last
the
year.
last 12 months, yes. And to give this balance between, the real important global topics, because we are becoming more and more global. We can see how fast content travels. You premiere something in the US, the whole world knows about it the next day. And everybody wants to be a part of that. So you cannot be, you have to be a part of it. But on the other hand, you need this sense of belonging. And this reflection is a mirror of me in this content.
Another level of those differences, I imagine, is that here in Germany, for example, and in Western Europe, we are mainly in very saturated TV markets, whereas some markets in your portfolio are not like that, but maybe, for example, in Africa, they are not even striving to become a really saturated TV market, but they are much more into mobile. So what does that mean for your platform strategy?
I would say, you know what, I'm not completely in agreement with that. I think that television is a mass medium and it's a very diverse medium in really pretty much everywhere around the world. Yes, there is a different mixture and a different access to international, specifically US content or the big channel brands. We are among those that have distribution across the world really with Discovery Channel. We basically are present in every country around the globe. It's not maybe with all the brands, so yes, but there is not a vacuum there. There are a lot of local channels that fill in this space. So I think that, being in the Middle East, for instance, which is, you have in the Middle East, you have like 600 channels, local channels, or something like that. It's just huge numbers. Having said that, it is about the content that rules. People want to see good content, best quality content. There are more and more because of the also global services and more channels going into international markets. They have a higher benchmark. So, the local productions have to reach that international or global benchmark. And yes, technology is an important aspect. And I must say that sometimes we tend to, at least I used to have that thinking that maybe, in those less developed markets, they're actually less developed from a technological perspective. Sometimes it's completely untrue, because they actually can leapfrog, in a sense, certain development areas that Western countries went through. And I think that's an interesting aspect of Africa, which actually, yes, television specifically, kind of traditional cable and satellite television, has not been big there, and it probably will never be really big because they went into mobile. It doesn't mean that they are not consuming television content, but through a different means and through different technology. And I'm always amazed that, like in Nigeria, you can pay for everything with your phone, while in a lot of Western countries, specifically my home countries, you can't.
Yeah, that's true. So one of your latest endeavors here in Germany is, of course, a joint venture you also mentioned before, 7TV. Alex Vasilev, the CEO, is going to be here on stage tomorrow morning. Yes. So tell us from the Discovery perspective, why enter that partnership with ProSiebenSat.1, which in effect partly is also a competitor of yours?
So I already mentioned a little bit. We really are a big believer in aggregation. We believe that from a consumer perspective, consumers want to come to the digital space where they can watch as much content as possible in one place through an app or through a destination that actually is really super serving their needs and creates a consumer experience which is unique. So we believe in coming together and bringing this content together. I think this is really a unique business that we have here in Germany. This is very much modeled on the Hulu example, but there's nowhere in Europe that something like that exists. There is obviously a lot of talk, and I really believe this is a window of opportunity for local players to create a destination for local content, and this is what 7TV and our joint venture really is.
So do you already look at it as a potential model for other countries too, to do something similar with another local broadcaster in those respective markets?
We're definitely open. we're definitely open to this type of cooperation or to this type of initiatives, as we believe this is the future for the local broadcasting community, and we're open also to new players in Germany.
So we're going to look to that and see what it will bring to the television and VOD landscape. So it only remains to me to say thank you very much for coming to Munich and sharing a bit of your thoughts and strategy with us. Thank you so much, Kasia Kieli.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.